This is Trophy Dark, the Plantation Part 2, and we're kicking off with Ring 3, Decadence, Decayed. The last thing we saw is Alina had gone ahead of the group and was walking down the path up to the front porch of this crumbling manor house, and Case and Orlin were coming up the rear. Orlin had tried to convince Alina to come back, but Alina just ignored Orlin and kept going. And I'll remind you all that on this path, there are trees on either side. I can't remember the type of tree. I think it says here. Willow trees, stripped to the bark. And every other tree has a flayed corpse tied or nailed to it. And it looks like the bodies have been gnawed upon. Everyone is in an interesting state in terms of their ruin. Orlin and Alina both have 5. Case, who joins us somewhat anew, has 4. Those of you who have 5, you are entitled to do the reduction roll. And I think Alina already did one. But basically, whenever you betray the group, you get to lower your ruin, and then you roll to see if your betrayal is noticed or not. And yeah, that's kind of where things stand. So I think I want to pick up with Orlin and Case, actually. I think I'd just like to have the scene of the two of you sort of walking up this macabre lane as you're approaching the house. Role play.
I grew up here. Did you know that?
I gathered as much. Has it always been like this? Kind of point to the, laid corpses.
I'm going to point beyond the willows to the apple orchard. My grandpappy planted those apple trees right there. You'll see the yellow ones are nearing ripeness. The red, a little more succulent, more tasty across the seasons, one might say.
There's certainly something ripe. Certainly something ripe on that tree. I'm not sure if it's the fruit.
There have been changes lately, changes that I might see undone. Should I be, head of the estate, let's say.
And do you think that you can stop whatever is going on here?
You could help me. Yes, you could definitely help me in my ascendancy as I reclaim the land that is rightfully mine. I take a little bite of an apple.
Case, it sounds like your drive is to reestablish this estate. And I'm curious, Case, this is maybe even an out of character question, I don't know, but I'm curious, how will you react once you realize that these other two are here to plunder what is rightfully yours?
It's not going to go.
Or what are you thinking that's probably pretty obviously what they're here to do. So what are you thinking about that?
At the moment, I'm playing this sort of new to me character as a bit naive. Like I came up out of the muck and murdered somebody who was here to plunder the estate, who may or may not have been human. Talking about Elphys. And at the moment, kind of playing myself as a bit of this naive stripling who thinks that this is mine to inherit. And from there, it's going to go badly.
I think as you're coming up the lane, you notice that one of the flayed bodies hanging on one of the willow trees, you've seen a lot of carnage here. And to some extent, I have to imagine it's just sort of washed over you, even literally in the case of hiding in the muck. But this one particular body is pretty obviously your governess when you were here in happier times. Despite the fact the body is flayed, how do you know it's your governess?
She had one of those little waste books with sort of a daily hymnal and liturgy prayers sort of thing that she would refer to, and that is hanging on her belt, and that would never have been separated from her person.
What were your feelings about your governess when she was alive, when you were here as a young child?
As I'm gazing upon her, I kind of rub my backside a bit, massaging some old scars from beatings from a time when, I didn't learn the lesson fast enough.
So then how does it make you feel to see her hanging there? She's been nailed to the tree with a large spike in her breastbone.
She served a purpose in education, perhaps, and giving me literacy, but there'll be new governors for the next iteration of the family farm. Sure, we can find one.
Orlin, you are at Ruin 5. Did you want to do something treacherous in order to have a shot at lowering it? Especially while the other two are distracted.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been thinking about this because I have a lot of information, especially about Case. How do I manipulate that information though? I think I need more time to think about it, honestly.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Alina, you were the first to arrive at the house. The entrance to the house is a pair of what were probably once very grand entryway doors, front doors. But now they are, well, one of them is missing. Another is just basically hanging from one hinge. You can go inside easily. The porch area of the house, this grand sort of veranda, it indicates that in happier times, this was a place where the family would frequently gather for, just socializing and for bonding, family time. What do you see here on the veranda still that indicates that that was the case?
As I duck under the door and take a look around, it's a lot of, I can tell they were accustomed to large family gatherings because the chairs are very cast iron and ornate in a matching set of 12, that all of the cushions matched, but the rust and decay has started to seep in and mold everything over. You can see that at once they all matched sets, but now they're just cast aside and bent and broken.
You find something, a small thing, but something significant that confirms there yet may be treasure here to be plundered, things that will allow you to commission a glorious statue to Saint Vita, was it? Yeah, Saint Vita. What is it?
I have to move like a heavy cast iron table to try and get into the main body of the house. And as I pull it up, in the crease of the wooden boards, I snag something, and it is a fine golden chain.
Do you go inside the house?
I do. I wrap the chain around my wrist and go on in.
Orlin and Case, you can see Alina bend down and pick something up and then go inside the house. And shortly thereafter, you will arrive on the veranda as well, and you can hear Alina inside. What do you both do?
So I do have my idea for my reduction here. So do it kind of Blades in the Dark style, where I will like say that something happened
Give us a
that didn't
flashback.
happen. Yeah, exactly. So I think along the way, with my betrothed and with Elphys, and then with Alina's companion from the feast as well. I've sort of like nosed around, and like if you remember like Elphys, like I pushed the body back in, like I've gotten some of their like maybe cut off some fabric, that type of thing that shows that they've been killed, perhaps stage that, and I've put it in a sort of like, I don't know, folder, dossier, wrapped it. And so I kind of tug Case's shoulder before we head inside, and I say, Case, you may need some evidence of your worthiness to take this back, and I have some here wrapped up just for that moment. When you need it, this will show the truth of who you are and why you deserve to bring all of this back to its former glory.
So you're handing me a parfleche full of murder victim parts?
Yeah, all kinds of evidence, both framed and real, of the murders that you have partaken in.
I like it.
That sounds perfect. Yes, that's so kind of you. It's rare that one of my station has support from one such as you. You're very generous, and I look forward to putting you to service in the plantation as we rebuild it.
Let's make the reduction roll, because you might pick up on something suspicious here. But you don't, because the reduction roll was a 1. So your ruin goes down, Orlin. And Case, what are you thinking? I mean, we've heard what you said, but what do you actually think?
Well, I've spent a long time in the muck, trying to find my moment to reclaim my heritage here, and it feels like these. In my head, I think of them as victims, but I don't say that out loud. That it's nice that these victims have arrived to give me the leverage, the stepping stones that I need to make my move and reclaim my family's estate for myself.
Alina, the big house of the plantation is a Baroque monstrosity of neoclassical architecture fallen to ruin and disrepair, ivory columns turned to black and yellow from endless smoke, carefully inscribed porch fence posts splintered and scattered about for kindling, cream-colored walls on the inside barely standing. You've gone through the formerly luxurious, probably formerly gilt filigreed doors, now stripped. And you're inside this shell. A magnificent shell, but a shell. You see remnants of this place's former opulence picked over, like a vulture picks over a corpse. The chandeliers have been emptied of gemstones. Any silverware you find has been stripped of the actual silver. It appears that anything of value has been torn away by the root. But perhaps most disturbing of all, or not, I don't know, based off what you've seen so far, There are despoiled skeletons all over the place. Flensed of flesh, strained of blood, bones cracked for marrow. That in itself, especially considering the walk up to the house, wouldn't be so bad. But then you also see rotting bodies trussed up as if for slaughter, suspended from ropes lashed to rafters or nailed across door frames. The last days of this place were truly a place of horror. Go ahead and make a ruin roll for me. Hopefully, I'll see if it hopefully doesn't ruin you. It does. You got a 6. And so, or no, are you at 5 now? You're at 5, right? Yeah. I think when you see those bodies hanging, trussed up like rotting meat, you'll notice that the ink marks on your arms and presumably on the rest of your body have become much more visible, but they've started to have words. For example, on your forearm, it says succulent. On the back of your hand, it says gristly. If you could see your cheeks, maybe you do in a cracked mirror, it says delicious. How are you feeling right now, Alina?
What's most disturbing about this scene for me is the waste of it in so many ways. This blood is so sacred and integral to my worship of Saint Vita. The sheer despoiled waste of it. And so even seeing the words written on my own flesh, I'm imagining like on a haunch, it's saved for soup. And, and I'm feeling very parsed and broken, like I'm in several different pieces myself, torn.
Good. Something I'll say to Sarah, but I'll wait for her to get back.
Sorry, my hydroponics were still going.
It's okay. You have a little bit of time before the others arrive. Anything you want to do?
I am convinced that this place is hollow except for the rot. And you can see on the doors where the gilding has been scratched out, but it's hard to tell if it was a knife work prying it or fingers clawing at the woodwork in final moments of just horror and gore. So for Alina, I think I'm going to very carefully and artfully step into just like, oh, I have to leap just a little further to get across those two bodies and try to maneuver in such a way that I'm at the far side of the building when the other two come in.
Are you trying to be hidden or are you just trying to be separate?
I am trying to decide on a reduction roll, and I think I'm just positioning myself at this point.
Okay, that sounds good. Case, Orlin, you can go in the house if you wish, or you can do anything else, I suppose. Case, what do you do?
I stride in the front door, kind of giving a unasked for tour to Orlin, saying, welcome to our family's estate. To the left, you'll see the painting of my family, me, mom, dad, my sister. Doesn't look a thing like me.
Does it seem like Case is like ignoring, like is sort of like blind to
This
the horrors
horror, yeah.
of what's going on?
I
Like,
love the idea of Case seeing it differently than everyone else. If you're into that Case, I think it's pretty great.
That's kind of how I'm playing it. Is
Yeah.
Brian, have
Yeah.
no idea where this character is going. Case is sort of coming along for the ride, and a bit of a what does Case really know? We'll find out later.
Orlin, give me a ruin roll as you see everything I've previously described.
That's fair.
You're fine with a 3. It seems like maybe it's Case's behavior that's distracting you from the horror. I don't know, but how are you feeling right now?
So here's maybe kind of the twist that I've been contemplating here for my character is that perhaps the thing that me and my betrothed were doing was essentially supplying people to this estate. We didn't necessarily know that that's where they were going, but I mean, similar to current events, like just telling people that there was a better life on this distant estate, and sort of like arranging things, perhaps even, yeah, sneaking into their homes and kidnapping them away, but with the promise of grand things
like
to make them
Ron
feel a little
DeSantis and
better
the
about
Venezuelans.
Yes. And so I think maybe I like, as Case is pointing, like is in his delusion, like I do find some of the maybe there's like one of these, like, for lack of a better word, like flyers that sort of like you have been selected for a grand journey that only few are worthy of taking. And so like I pick it up, and maybe that's why the sort of like ruin of this place kind of like blocks me, because it's like this is just business at this point. Like this is, and also to some extent, like it feels like there's sort of like this the ring is kind of like looping back on itself.
Yeah, that's great. Case, your mother is at the top of the staircase. In your eyes, I think the chandelier is blazing, the tiles and wood floor are polished, and there are not bodies laying around everywhere. There are servants rushing to and fro. And you see your mother at the top of the staircase, and she says, Case, you've been gone so long, but finally you're back. You're back to claim your inheritance. I'm so happy to see you, my dear, precious boy. And she looks much as you remember her, wearing a, kind of sort of a lovely velvet gown and tasteful jewelry at her neck and wrist. And she's welcoming you. What do you do?
Well, excitedly, I turn to Orlin and I say, come meet my mama. But my jowls are a little longer, my ears are a little more flappy, and it comes out kind of like, mama. And I begin to run up the stairs. I should point out I do have skills in demons and trickery, so hopefully something clicks to stop me from embracing. But
I think no, I like it. We'll see. You're going upstairs, and she says, "Come and give me a kiss, my sweet boy." Do you?
I'm heading that direction, but if there's a die roll to let me have a moment of hang on a moment, I would love that die roll.
Orlin, Case is going upstairs. Do you follow?
I think I'm scanning for Alina, actually.
Alina, you said you went across the main hall towards the other side of the house, right?
I did.
Yeah. You'll see her. Or at least hear her at the very least. So Orlin, what do you do?
I'll go to like the foot of the stairs. I don't think I'm going any further than that.
Case, I do. What's happening out of character is you're about to embrace a corpse that's up at the top of the stairs, just laying there. I do want to do a die roll though to see how this goes for you, to see if you can see through the mirage or not. Does anyone have any thoughts on what could go wrong here?
I mean, stairs are pretty, like, I see a slip and fall situation that would be both grotesque and hilarious.
I kind of like that too. Like the body and case go crashing down through when the risers collapse or something. Yeah.
I was thinking that this is sort of could potentially be a trap for other human eaters, that it's sort of like, here's the bait or some type of like beast or whatever, and there are further up the stairs off into the wings, there are other people just waiting to pounce.
I like that too. All right, let's do dice.
Now I'm picturing that mic with like puppeteer strings, like 4 of them pulling on arms and strings, like a little jaw hinge. Gross.
You have your light die for your skills in trickery. I think especially is the most relevant one here. But it also could be, well. So the thing is that like it's not demons or trickery if this is just your addled brain, but I think we're maybe suggesting that the house itself is doing something, in which case I think it's probably okay to go ahead and accept those as relevant skills. Who has a devil's bargain?
No matter what, when you figure out or have some interaction with this corpse and realize that it's not your mother, you are going to be searching for her for the rest of, like, going room to room, wondering where she is.
Or with her being the head of the estate in your absence and now being gone, there must be someone else who's in charge, and you are going to be in search of that person.
I actually like that. I'm going to put a spin on that, kind of both of them in a way. No matter what, your greedy uncle, who has always coveted the land, is here in the house.
Yeah, I need another rival to murder. I haven't murdered him 2 so far.
Yeah, just 2 so far. You get 2 light dice. I don't need a dark die yet. You can just roll light for now.
That's 6.
Hey, good. Describe the moment when you realize that you're about to kiss a corpse.
Oh, I run up and I'm a little short. I kind of hug her waist, and it gives a little too much, like in a way it shouldn't. Flesh separating out of the folds in the garments, the formerly pleated ironed fabric oozes almost through the warp and the weft. And as I step back, sort of horrified, an apple tumbles out of my vest pocket down the stairs, bump, 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 and lands at Orlin's feet, and a single worm crawls out of that apple and drops to the carpet.
Alina, you're on the other side of the house, and I think there's actually like a small, like sort of auxiliary dining room over there, like for private meetings and meals, you know. And you'll notice that there's a lit candelabra in the room. There's quite a bit of ambient light coming in from the windows outside, but it's still fairly dark. It's kind of a gray light, but this is distinct candlelight coming from this room. What do you do? There's also the smell of cooked meat.
So I too am going to do the blades in the dark as I'm moving down the hallway, I would like to set up some sort of a trap. Yeah. Yeah, I would like that very much.
You can
And
absolutely do that. What, describe the nature of the trap.
I think that what it is, I think that it's very fine twine or wire that I have set up at ankle height, and then 5 feet down the hallway, it's then at like neck height, and just like trying to, if somebody should come running through this hallway, it might be very bad for them.
They trip and then like,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's gruesome. I love it. Go ahead and roll reduction. That is a 6. Your ruin goes down, but Orlin, you can literally see Alina stringing the wire as you're looking for her. What do you do, Orlin?
Can I just go and snip the wire? Like,
Absolutely. But it's, the more interesting question is, what do you do about the fact that Alina's trying to trap you?
I mean, I think like I'm taking that like information that she's like setting traps, and so she's also depending on these traps in a way. And so I think that it's sort of like, yeah, there's some like 4D chess kind of stuff going on here where it's like, oh, okay, so if she's depending on this trap for some reason, I can lure something in here where she'll think that she's safe when in actuality she's in danger. So I think that that's, yeah, whether I'm snipping it or like
Change the trap,
reconfiguring
rearrange
it,
it. Yeah.
yeah, in some way, so that sort of like, yeah, the trigger is a bit different, the effect is a bit different, and I will know, yeah, how it functions and she won't. So to be able to use that to my advantage.
I think that's a further reduction roll. I mean, let's see how that goes. If Alina realizes your game here. Alina does not, because you got a 3. Let's pick up with Alina again, though. Alina, you think your traps are set and are good to go. There is this little small dining room where there's clearly candlelight and food. What do you do?
Alina is not hungry, but something about the kind of roasted cooking meat smell mingling with the rot and like moldy sort of putrid smell is really setting her stomach it's really souring her stomach. And at this point, can I head away from the food smells, or is it just the entire back of the house?
No, you can
smells?
certainly keep searching
Mhm.
for treasure elsewhere, but there's clearly someone here.
Libet told me that if I heard anything of the monstrous creatures, that I should immediately take off running, because that was the best strategy she had to deal with them. Do I hear anything coming out of this room, or I just see like
Just
the flickering candlelight?
the occasional clink of cutlery on plates and glasses being set on tables. It sounds like it's just one person, though.
I think I'll just continue down the hall and continue moving past this person. My trap is set. I'm being quiet.
Orlin, your trap, you have rejiggered the trap, and that's when you'll be aware of someone taking a meal in a room around the corner. You hear the clink clink. You smell it too, the distinct smell of charred meat. It smells good. I mean, this sort of burning smells in your nose the whole time you've been here, but here it has a more, there's also like an undertone of sage and mint.
I should like to take a peek, just a little tiny peek.
You see a man wearing a slightly worn, but nevertheless reasonably good condition coat and breeches and a powdered wig on his head. And he's sitting at a table and he's drinking wine and eating some type of meat. He has in the center of the table, there's this large silver dome covering what is presumably the thing he's eating.
Can I knock on like the doorway and just kind of like see how he responds? Almost like a knock on the door, like trying to get his
Yeah.
attention or announce some type, my presence essentially.
He doesn't turn to look at you, but he does say, well, I was wondering if someone was going to come introduce themselves or not.
That sounds welcoming enough.
You go in.
Go around the corner, yeah.
He looks up at you and he says, so I gather you're here to plunder my brother's house of all its worldly treasures and goods.
I don't know if I want everything, but I would like a thing or two.
Well, before you rob us of the silver and the china, I hope you'll at least wait for me to finish my meal before you take these from me.
Oh, you may continue eating in perpetuity, my friend.
Well, he says, why don't you sit down and join me?
I'll pull up the chair, yeah.
Drop me in now. I've got a gross idea.
Well, so Case, you're upstairs. They're all downstairs. Case, what are you doing right now? Once you realize after you shake off with whatever you're
I'm upstairs and they're downstairs, but I grew up here. And
that's true.
The smells waft upwards
yeah.
as the smells do. And the dining room is the last place I saw my sister. And she had a penchant for taking the servant staircase down to kind of pop out and surprise people.
I like that, yeah.
And I'm going to play that now, like take the servant staircase down to the dining room and pop out with like a little, haha, sis, and find.
Oh, that's good.
Perhaps my sis on the dining table. I don't know. Uncle.
First, we will. This man, he gets up. He introduces himself as Cassian. He gets up and he sets down a plate and a goblet and pours you a glass. And then he goes over to this large silver dome and he says, well, I have to apologize for doing something so uncouth as pouring my guests wine and serving his food. But as you can see, we don't really have any servants here at the time. So one has to make do with what one has, doesn't one?
One does.
He says, I thought I overheard my little nephew earlier, though his words were mumbled and muffled. I nevertheless picked up on the rather irritating, grating timbre in his voice.
Your nephew, would that be I believe Case is his
Case, yes.
name? Yes, he arrived at about the same time that I did.
I suppose he's here to claim his inheritance,
Chuckle and say, that is what he says.
Are you his henchman?
Oh, no. But I have seen his many deeds of valor and honor in making his way here.
And Case, that's the part you'll hear as you get to the bottom of the stairs. I've seen as many deeds of valor. And you hear your Uncle Case, or Cassian. What do you do?
Well, I'll pop the door open with kind of a familial huzzah and be like, surprise, I'm back. And dried mud is still flaking off of me. I do not look a normal, ready for the plantation life character right now.
He lifts up the silver dome to show what he's been eating. And it is a pair of legs laid out, artfully arranged with greenery and apples, but roasted to perfection. And he looks at you, Case, and he says, perhaps you could come over here and give me a hand, little nephew.
Do I recognize the stockings on the feet?
I think you will probably recognize the legs as your sister's legs. Yeah. Make a ruin roll.
Absolutely. A 5 going up.
I think you become much more bestial in that moment. How do you react?
My sister and I had a pact that we would share the estate equally. You know, we had our divisions in the household and knew which rooms were our favorite, which servants were our favorite. Uncle gave good gifts, but at the holidays, but was not favored per se. I'm realizing in my time where I fled from the building, from the house, is that moment where he must have murdered her and I guess baked her up himself. But I'm also going to play it for a moment as the young child who's lacking power, and I'm going to sidle up to the table and pick up a napkin and kind of tuck it into my collar. And say,
I think you're having trouble with the mechanics of tucking in the napkin because your hands have fused, the fingers have fused together.
Nice.
Looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will fumble the napkin, fumble the silverware. I'll call out for a servant who cannot answer. Assuming they can help me tuck it in, but nobody arrives. And say, Uncle, I see you've started without me.
He says, yes, and I see perhaps I should have said, trot over here and give me a hoof. Well, what an interesting little soiree this is going to be, as he cuts into the leg meat.
Coming out of my kind of jowly lips, I say, you always make fun of us for our differences.
Alina, you have the run of the place right now, Alina.
I'm trying to decide the best access down. I feel like if this treasure still exists, that I should be finding a cellar, into a root cellar, into a super secret, I don't know, clan-driven hole in the ground in which terrible rituals were performed.
Despite the decay and disrepair of this place, Alina, the ruins evoke the culmination of your wildest dreams made manifest. It's a big house filled with countless rooms, boasting priceless art and artifacts, or did at one time, and maybe there are some left. Perched high atop a hill overlooking a manicured lawn, gently swaying fields of gold. It in itself, the house is almost like a perfect monument in its way to Saint Vita. Or it could be. How so?
Saint Vita is beloved by her worshippers for her blood-soaked, shiny visage that appears to us when we are experiencing pain and allows us the transcendence in order to survive it. And so the symbolism of Alina cutting herself, and also you find knives at her altars, where her patrons can give her a little more blood if she needs it. And I think that that's what I'm doing, like a casual, almost like a child with too many Crayola markers or finger paints. I'm taking some of my own blood and just following a beveled, scalloped edge of a former, like the molding, crown molding, as I'm moving from one hallway to another, kind of just adding my own touches to the decaying architecture and adding some blood markings here and there.
Good. Back at the little party, Cassian, he says, "It will be dark soon. Are you intending to stay here once the sun goes down? Should I have rooms made up for you?"
Is this addressed to Orlin or both of us?
Just the table, whoever.
I'm gonna take a nibble of leg here and take this table-wide invitation of should I have made rooms made up for you as divorcing me from the right to live in this house. And through my jowls say, "Unkind uncle, so unkind. You were always so unkind." It's almost a bellow coming out of my childlike body. And I say, "I see you've even done wrong to Charlotte here."
He says, "Yes, well, in these desperate times, people have to do things in order to survive. I myself have had to put up with more than most in life, which is why I think at the end I was the nearly the last one standing of our family. I know what it's like to be passed over. I know what it's like to be the better brother, to be the more deserving, but to be given nothing, to be given scraps, to be given a tiny, fallow little plot of land and an ugly wife with which to create
Always with
pitiful
the
children."
scraps. Do you remember your dog, that little yippy one? That, with the right amount of rosemary and salt, that was a delicious, delicious pup that you brought to the table that year. Do you miss it still, Uncle? I'll take a little nibble off of Charlotte's thigh bone.
He looks over at Orlin and says, "I suppose you find this conversation most stimulating. Hmm?
I think you already know the answer to that.
How sad and boring for you that you have to be stuck here while we litigate the past. Hmm?
Oh, nothing about this is boring. I can tell you that much.
You haven't had even one bite of the dinner. Are you going to be eating with us?"
In the establishments that I frequent, they often tell you what the ingredients are before you participate.
Well, this, of course, is, well, I suppose we could get technical with it. This is leg of well-bred young lass that has been roasted and marinated and roasted with honey and sage and dressed with green and red apples, as well as bundles of kale and parsley.
I don't mean to insult the chef, but I do prefer the sweet rose infusion of cheek.
Oh, do you? And I think he thinks he's being, I think he thinks you're being funny.
Hmm.
And he kind of like looks at you and gives you a sideways glance. And he sort of laughs. And he says, well, I'm afraid this is all we have for now, though certainly my nephew, I would say his face is getting more succulent by the moment.
Say, Uncle, it's clear there's enough food here for many others. Should we invite your wife? Should we ring the dinner bell? And I pick up a bell, but it looks more like a cowbell than some formal silver bell might ring.
No one will come. It's just him. He says, there's a third member of your party. I hear them rattling around in the deeper parts of the house.
Alone again, Uncle. Every year you come promising to show us a broader family, but it's always just you.
Yes, well, my temperament is frequently considered disagreeable. No wonder, since I've had such an unjust lot in life. But now I'm here to claim what is rightfully mine. This place is rightfully mine, despite its current circumstances, which have caused it to become brought quite low. I am the rightful lord of this estate. And you, Case, well, perhaps we could clear out a space in the barn for you.
Let me try some skill at negotiation here.
Okay, what is that?
And say, very well, Uncle, but show me the will. If you and I are the last two standing, clearly there's a document in this house that would show who is the rightful owner and who lives in the barn.
An interesting time to bring the law into it, considering the state of things, but I think that the king's edicts on these matters are quite straightforward. In the instance where the only living issue of the former owner is rapidly turning into a beast, the property then passes to any siblings that the prior owner might have had. This is very, very simple matter of, well, testamentary law and protocol. We'll put down a bed of hay and barn as well, just because I'm a nice person, Case. Meanwhile, Alina, you are having pretty decent luck. You have to rummage through a lot of crap, but you are managing to find the occasional vase with just a single chip in it, mirror with just a single crack in it, a sort of filigreed painting frame or picture frame with just a little bit of the gold chipped away. If only you had a carriage or a cart to put it all in. But you've got a free run of the place. The sun is getting low in the sky. And eventually, the only light sources at all are just the glow of the smoldering fires outside in the fields. The very, very faint candlelight from the dining room. And any light that you might have brought yourself, a lantern perhaps. You haven't heard from Orlin in some time. What do you do?
I think that I have gathered all of my treasures and I'm putting them in a very safe nook and perhaps even dragging a mislaid body, which seems to be a thing in this house, and just kind of like pressing some dead cover over my treasures to hide them from the rest of my group. And as the light is fading and I see the sun, and looking across the lawn, do I see any shapes moving?
Yes, perhaps you do.
I'm on alert for creatures just because Libet told me with very terrified explanation that I should be.
Indeed, you should be. And so passes ring 3. Let's take a 5-minute break. Ring 4. Night falls swiftly as the treasure hunters search the ruins of the manor. As I noted before, the plantation grounds are illuminated only by whatever light source that you brought. The glowing embers of fires scattered across the rice fields, and the single candelabra in the dining room. The dark is settling in fast. Alina, you're looking out the window, and you hear first shuffling, rustling, snorting, coming from the swaying fields, punctured by the occasional sort of guttural and then you see shapes. Lots of them, a dozen or more. Pallid when they're in the light, bloated, pig-like, lumbering, slobbering into sight. Their cloven hooves trampling stalks of rice, some on 2 legs, some on 4. They clutch rusty hooks, blood-streaked knives, dripping cleavers. They encircle the house. They stop and chew on the meat of bodies hung in trees. Like a squirrel finding an acorn that they hid earlier in the season, almost with a self-satisfied glee, gorging themselves on the red meat, drinking the blood, and moving ever closer. Alina, if it comes to it, who of your companions will you sacrifice to the creatures so that you can get away?
I have no reason to think that Case would not be delicious to these creatures. Maybe even taste ancestrally familiar.
Indeed. Back at the dinner, Cassian says, "It's already nighttime. Things get very interesting here at night. I hear noises out in the fields sometimes. I hear
Go play the harpsichord, Uncle."
He says, "Well, I grow weary of my nephew's surly behavior." And he stands up.
It's not like I can play with these. I hold up my little mutated hands.
He rolls his eyes. You see what I had to put up with in this family, friend Orlin.
Certainly there must have been moments of joy.
He circles around behind Case and puts his hand on Case's shoulders and says, "Fleeting, but yes, there were moments. Truth be told, I'm actually quite happy to see my nephew again. Any family, after so long, is a sight for sore eyes, even family who are, well, not entirely agreeable." And he starts to like gently caress Case's cheek, running his fingers along the length of it. He says, "He is a good boy, though a bit churlish at times." Gives a little scratch, little scratch. Orlin, what are you thinking as you look at Case's succulent cheek meat?
You can call me Pavlov's dog, as the bare naked ladies might say. I'm sort of just clutching a steak knife or whatever that's laying at the table. And yeah, if Case is scanning me in any way, he'd see kind of that, yeah, the sort of like knuckles sort of like tightening up around the knife. But I think that I'm like resisting the urge. I don't know if I'm quite that murderous and cold-blooded, but yeah.
I think I would like a risk roll.
Oh my.
Sarah, what could go wrong here? If Orlin fails to control his urges.
I mean, Case is going to have even more of a speech impediment.
Indeed, indeed. Let's talk about dice. Keeping it together. Do you have a relevant skill here that you want to make a case for?
Temptation.
Oh, temptation. Yes, the resistance thereof. Yeah. Okay, good. I like that. You have one light die. And just to keep it fun, Brian, you can make the devil's bargain.
Mike, can you remind me, your betrothed is deceased, yes?
Yes. In our we haven't really established the details of it, but what we know is that my betrothed died along our journey here. There's like the chest that I've got in the bog with a string leading to it. And we know that, yeah.
I think that's good enough for my devil's bargain.
Okay.
As dessert is served, the engagement ring is in your slice of pie.
Oh shit.
I have an idea. If you go with that, I have an idea to follow up with as well. So
yeah, I'll go with that. That's cool.
You have 2 light dice. We'll keep it at light dice for now. Go ahead and roll. See how it goes. Hey, a 6. You keep it together. And when Cassian realizes you aren't going to take the bait, he gives Case a little pat on the head and says, "We'll like to have some visitors soon. You'll want to find your way down to the basement if you hope to survive the night. But before you go, Perhaps, and he has the pie, a slice of pie. The apples here are exquisite. Case used to spend quite a bit of time in the orchards, didn't you, sweet nephew?
Apple pie, uncle. You promised kidney this year. You promised kidney.
Oh, kidney pie in these circumstances is just a bit too on the nose, wouldn't you say? Case, no, apples will do.
On the nose. So funny. You're so
Boop,
funny,
boop.
uncle.
And he slices into the pie and serves you all a piece. And as you were putting a fork into your pie, Orlin, the ring, how do you know it's hers?
I think it's like a very peculiar the band, the way that it's like formed is kind of it's not maybe it's like not a perfect circle, that it's more of like an oval, an ellipsis, in a really strange way. And so it's very easy to see, even if as it's peeking out of like, oh, this is a ring that's like an oblong shape that is very particular to um, the customs of my land and this particular person as well.
What do you think it means that her ring is here?
We didn't bury the body well enough.
Did you? So you found the body then. You confirmed she's dead.
Mm-hmm. We stripped her of most of her belongings, but maybe I left the ring on there as like a sign of our eternal love.
Perhaps. How shallow was that grave that you dug for her?
Oh, I mean, it was a dangerous situation, so it was probably just barely covered her. Like if you were stepping on it, you would know that there was a body under there.
Alina, these porcine creatures are getting closer. One of them has just clomped their way up to the veranda. What are you doing right now?
When I saw the shapes moving in the field in the low light, I think that I would go back to my original plan, which was, okay, well, there's nothing else up here. Let's try and find a
Try to find
downstairs
the
and hide.
downstairs.
Mhm.
Yeah. Down one hall, you hear the slam slam of a door. What do you do? Also, I'd like a ruin roll just for seeing the pig creatures too. See how that goes.
Yep, I rolled a 2.
Your audio is very muffled for some reason, Sarah. I don't know why. It kind of went out briefly.
How about now?
No, it's the same. It's like something's over your mic or something.
Keep talking. I think it was getting better there.
How about this for now?
It's good. Yeah.
Mhm. So I think that after hearing the slam slam, I'm not really bothered by the pig creatures because I know they're coming. I was warned, and I do the whole like creep along the wall next to the door I thought slammed and open it ferociously, quickly, trying to slam it into somebody behind it.
You get within a few feet of that door and you hear and then you see looming Well, it looks a lot like this guy right here behind me. What do you do?
I run
Let's have a
as
risk
fast
roll.
as I can to the bottom floor.
Trying to find the basement. Yeah. Risk roll. Everyone gets to say what could go wrong here.
The pig beings outside break down the door and grab you by the ankle.
I think this pig being just catches you and cleaves you in two.
There are those traps that you think are going to work out for you.
Yep. I love that. I like that. Actually, I think that's really good. Okay, let's talk about dice. Just straight up running, but also kind of looking for the basement too. Spirits, vigilance, willpower, grace. I'll take willpower if it's kind of like a prolonged final girl type escape.
I was picturing Grace with like a ballerina wall running.
In case you have a light
Half
die.
Matrix, half Black Swan. No, I think willpower in this case is just the ability to think through the fear, because Lilbet was very afraid of these creatures, and I think that it's a matter of endurance for sure.
Devil's bargains. I'll make the offer. No matter what, Orland's betrothed is in the basement.
I have no problem with that.
You have 2 light dice and a dark die. Go for it. 6 light.
Roll the
Very
6
good.
light.
Just describe your escape and how you eventually find the door that goes down.
I have my hand on the door when I hear the very obvious snorts and rustling, and like a shot, like a deer spooked by a car, I'm just alight through the hallways. And as I'm going back through, I'm looking for my wire, and in seeing the positioning, realize that I'm about to trip over the low wire and then into the, like, if Orland moved it from one side to the other side, and I have to do some leaping of my own to try and make sure that I don't decapitate myself as I'm fleeing. Do I hear the beast in pursuit?
Yes, he is like he kind of, you can hear him like kind of lumbering, like his heavy hooves.
Then I don't
like
pause to find
pump. Yeah.
And I don't pause to find my companions at all.
Yeah, no time
I
for
am
them.
grasping for every door under a staircase until I finally see what looks like double doors down into a basement.
You escape, and it doesn't know where you've gotten off to, because you can hear it kind of like angrily stomping around upstairs, trying to find you. And it just sort of like, kind of lets out a terrible guttural noise of frustration because it lost you. Just this. And then it stomps away. Case and Orland, you hear this commotion. You hear things coming into the house. You hear things being slammed around. You heard the chase. And you are in a dining room with only one doorway in and out. Oh, that's not true. There's the little secret door, the servant's door. Yeah,
I have a quick question. I'm sorry.
So you could go upstairs, I suppose, if you didn't want to go down.
I had a quick question. Are we trying to angle towards a singular giant pig entity or multiple?
There's like 12 of them.
Okay. All right. That's all I need to know.
Yeah. You can hear them coming in from various parts of the house.
Yeah. I want to have the vision of open doorway and pig being passes by, cleaver in hand, maybe.
Yeah, I think one passes by that's dragging like a hook on a chain.
Yeah. And I turn to Uncle Cassian and I say, Uncle Cassian, how many holidays have we spent here where I called your wife a sow? And there she is. And I point with my very non-human hooves and my elongated snout and ears. And then, knowing his wrath that he's about to try and cuff me on the ear, I dive below the table and give like a donkey bleat and run out the door on all fours. Like
yeah. That's a reduction roll, actually, because this could bring in trouble for Orlin. It's a 6, and Orlin, whether it's true or not, you interpret this as like Case sacrificing you and Cassian to save himself. Case gets away. Orlin, one of the pig creatures, is looming in the doorway. It's the one with the hook and the chain. And he's just sort of Cassian says, I have managed to live in something like detente with these beasts up until this point, treasure hunter. But I fear that that moment is getting away from me right now. What do you propose we do by way of egress or otherwise saving ourselves from the wrath of this twisted being?
Well, I don't know if both of us, it's kind of a prisoner's dilemma, isn't it? If
The
both of
hook
us try and
flies
get
out and
Oh,
wedges
geez.
itself in Cassian's head and just like rips open the front part of his head, and the brains spatter everywhere. And the pig creature lumbers forward.
All
What do you
right,
do?
then. I think that is there any face left on Cassian at all?
Maybe a bit. Yeah, like
a little bit of cheek meat.
Little cheek meat, maybe.
A little bit of cheek meat.
Yeah.
So because I think I'd like to go like cut a slice off and then just like underhand casually toss it towards the pig thing.
Oh, like you're like its friend.
Yeah, I'm its friend. I'm just prepping a meal because Cassian obviously has like negotiated his way through this in the past.
So they must be amenable to certain gestures. Yeah. Okay. Group, what could go wrong here for Orlin?
The creature is much more perhaps smarter than you anticipated, and is very pissed off by the here piggy strategy. Like you're talking down to it.
You wind up tossed and gutted on the dining room table.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. You get trussed up. Yeah. Let's talk about dice. Temptation, maybe. I could maybe go for temptation. Although he doesn't need your permission to start chewing on Cassian.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to tempt him away from me. That's the way that I would do it. I feel like
I'll take that. Yeah, I like
okay.
that. Yeah, I'll take that. You've got one light die. Devil's Bargains. Who has an offer?
Well, it seems like based on our prior Devil's Bargain, you need to wind up in the basement to confront your betrothed. And so my Devil's Bargain is just whatever happens, you wind up backing up to that servant's stairwell and take it down a floor.
Oh, so you end up in the basement. Yeah. I'm going to say that I'm going to say you drop your betrothed's ring.
Can I twist mine a little bit here? This beast has such force that somehow it shatters the floor and you fall onto your betrothed in the basement.
I think no matter what, sitting down to this dinner and listening to these two cannibals bicker over another one of their relatives, I think the whole experience has changed you, and you don't necessarily see it to be taboo any longer. That this frees you to eat as much cheek meat as you'd like.
You join him a little. You share it, like when I used to eat beef jerky with my cats. I'd like tear a little bit off, and they get some.
I'll
and I
eat a
get
little
some.
bit so you know it's safe, and then
we would just enjoy it together and tear off bits for them, and
I mean, I'll take them all. I feel like they can combine.
Nevertheless, you get one. So to pick one, which one are you gonna pick?
I mean, just like a narrative structure, I like the idea of like the collapse of this room. And I guess that the complication there is that the pig is down there with us.
Yeah.
As opposed to just like sidling out, as opposed to yeah. So I'll do that.
Okay, good. 2 light, and I think a dark is automatic here, so go ahead and give it a roll. And you got a 6 light. The dice are very nice today.
These are, yeah.
Go ahead and describe your escape.
I walk to Cassian and just like slice off a little bit of him and toss it towards the pig, who seems hungry and enjoying that and wants more. And I think he approaches, to tie it into the devil's bargain, I think he approaches very, very quickly and just kind of like lunges and like leaps on Cassian's body. And the floor just gives way and collapses underneath. And I think I've backed away enough that I'm not like falling down in the collapse, but that collapse has happened and I can see, and this is where I'll hand it back to you, Jason. I can see my betrothed's body there.
I'll take care of the
down
betrothed.
there.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
But for now, you just crash.
Gently.
Case, you haul out of there on all fours, leaving your uncle and this interloper to their fates. Where do you go?
Oh, well, I know that in the basement there's the safe where we keep both the will and the firearms. And I'm heading for those. I know that I can set things right with,
you know where the basement is, so
right. Opposable thumbs would help, but I'll do my best in this moment of need.
Fair enough. As Case makes his way down the stairs, Alina, you're already down there. Somewhere, not immediately nearby, but on this level, you hear a loud crash of the structure falling apart. And so passes ring 4. Let's take a 5-minute break. Ring 5. The promises of the Queen. Alina, you are the first to arrive in the basement, having run away from the pig creatures. And when you have a moment to catch your breath, you'll notice that there are some barrels down there, the barrels are seeping something. It's hard to tell because you don't have any light. Though there is something down here, around a corner, deeper in the basement. There is some light source, a heat source. But you can see in that faint nimbus of light, some kind of fluid seeping from the barrels. What do you do?
I think that I do run my fingers just along the edge and then kind of angle it to the light to see if I can discern a color or a texture.
It's blood.
Alina just wipes it and continues towards the light source.
You continue on around the corner. This is before the crash down into the before Orlin crashes down in. This is before that. You see what appears to be a smoking cauldron on a fire. Something is bubbling away inside of it. What do you do?
Does this cauldron look like is the room built to have a fire in a basement, or was this something that's okay?
There's a chimney, a shaft to allow the smoke to escape.
So this being an architectural feature of the house, I feel like I don't want whatever's in the pot.
It has a smell, but it's not a smell like blood or meat, at least not after a time. It smells like that initially. No surprise here. Instead, I would say it smells like the fulfillment of your desires. What does it smell like when you build your vast monument to St. Vita?
The crisp, clean, metallic iron, like wet blood.
That is what it smells like inside the cauldron. It smells like promises fulfilled, dreams made reality, desires made corporeal, real. What do you do?
Once Alina feels like it's a cauldron full of warm, fresh blood, she, in ecstatic worship, would absolutely plunge her hands into the liquid and mimic her deity.
As you approach it, before you can do that, you see that the cauldron is actually filled with molten gold bubbling away. I assume you don't plunge your hands in that.
Nope.
And that's when a monstrously beautiful figure, a beatific figure, emerges from the shadows. She is clad in gore-streaked servants' whites. You don't know her name, but you know she is the Sow Queen. Her pinkish skin glows matronly beneath prickly fur as her cloven hooves crush powdered bone and splatter molten gold underfoot. She has a sodden cloth sack the size of a grown man, and she's dragging it across the room. And then she empties it into the gold-filled cauldron and stirs it with her golden ladle. And you see, as she gets into the light, that she has the head of a pig-like creature, much like these creatures that chased you down here. But it has a beauty to it. It has a freshness to it. I would even go so far as to say you feel comforted by her presence. And nevertheless, you are rolling ruin. You got a 1?
I did.
Very, very comforting. How do you feel?
After the terror of the previous pig creatures, this has a light and nurturing quality, like a bone broth.
There's something familiar about her, the Sow Queen. Though perhaps you can't quite put your finger on it yet. Case, you will come down the stairs the same direction that Alina came in. Are you still on all fours?
Not at the moment.
You can make the same.
I'm sorry, make the same one?
The same journey winding through
okay.
the basement and turning a corner and seeing everything as I've described it. You'll even see Alina standing there in front of the Sow Queen with her golden ladle, her hands or hooves open wide. She almost has the look of one of the sisters, the way she's posed right now. The ladle across her chest, the other hand welcoming, beckoning. And her finely chiseled, smooth, pig-like snout, and her small, glistening tusks, and her eyes, which have that beady blackness of pig's eyes, but they glitter like jewels. She says, she didn't say anything yet. The smell, Case. Whatever's in the cauldron smells like the fulfillment of your desires, of reestablishing your hold over the estate, of making the estate great again. What does that smell like?
Oh, it's two things. Petrochlor, that smell after the rain, lifting up from the earth, and that combined with the scent of bubbling cornmeal, sort of a childhood memory of what wafted out of the kitchen out the window across the land.
Make a ruin roll, please, Case. You got a 2. How do you feel upon seeing the Sow Queen?
Oh, I've got an idea that I want to add a thing in here, but shoot it down if it doesn't work. Case, the reason we saw Case initially emerge from the mud back in Ring 2, Case has always believed that the mud surrounding the estate was transformative, that should one immerse oneself in it, one would come out a different being. And it's kind of what hemmed him in, kept him here this entire time. But then knowing the presence of his uncle, thought maybe this is the moment to transform into my own version of the Sow Queen, to become something that's powerful and take charge of the estate. And that behind the Sow Queen right now, sort of dark in the shadows, is a looming figure of Elphys, now this mammoth donkey being, sort of second in command to the Sow Queen. And I realized that I did the transformation wrong.
Interesting.
That I'm this puny little human half donkey thing, and I got the order, the sequence, the hierarchy of how one does the mud ritual totally incorrect.
I like it. So the Sow Queen has a sort of a companion down there with her, an avatar, if you will, of sorts. She speaks to you both. She says, in a voice that's remarkably soothing and clear, despite her appearance, I can give you gold. Gold for meat. This is my promise. This is my commitment to you. Gold for meat. Who between you will seize the gold? And who between you will be the meat?
Oh, my uncle's upstairs. Just give me a second. I'm gonna go get him.
I think you can hear at the top of the stairs the pig creatures standing watch at the top of the stairs. She says again, who between you will get the gold and who will be the meat?
Alina would like to act and slice as far down as she can on Case's ankles to try and get his Achilles tendon.
Very good. You can certainly do that. And
I will not be meat.
that's contest roll. The stakes are, well, Case, once you realize what's about to happen, will you try to make Alina the meat?
Gonna use all my donkey kick prowess to donkey kick her back into that kettle.
Indeed. So the stakes are who gets the gold and who is the meat. So let's have the roll. Let me remind you, let's take a look at the rules. If you hover over the contest roll on the character sheet, it says, when treasure hunters act against each other, compete, or want to inflict harm on each other, we agree at what's at stake, and then you take a light die if you have a relevant skill. So let's take a look at your skills. Grace, Alina, the way you described it, I think probably is appropriate. And Case, what do you think?
Oh man, sort of feels like demonic bargains at this level. I don't know.
I don't know, because this is
feel
just pretty
naive and
straightforward. This is just a
Yeah.
straightforward kind of physical struggle.
Yeah, let's call it 0 for now.
Yeah, let's continue going. One light die for each mark of ruin you have. So here you have an advantage, Case. Alina has, well, it says 3 here, and then Case, you have 4. So you're both up to 4 light dice at this point. And a dark die if it's inherently dangerous. Yes, it is. So you're both at 4 light, 1 dark, and then as many additional dark dice as you wish to risk. What you're looking for is 6s. Whoever gets the most 6s is the winner. And then we go to 5s and 4s if we get ties. But if any of the dark dice come up 1, then your ruin goes up by 1 as well. So if you get, so it could go up by as many as possible, depending on how many 1s you get. It could go up multiple times. So the count is currently 4-1. Go ahead and plug into the contest roll how many extra dark dice you're going to put in, or just do your total dice numbers, and whenever you're ready, we'll roll.
All right. I'm ready.
Very good. Sarah, do you have yours plugged in?
Technical issue, just a moment.
Okay.
Never lets me scroll the way I want to.
Oh, hit that rolls button up in the right corner.
All right. Forgive me, I don't know why this isn't working. Oh, delightful. I'm ready.
Okay, let's hit the button, see how it goes. Woo, Alina got 4 6s. What'd you end up with, Case?
I am off my computer screen. I can't see them. Can anybody see them?
Yeah, hit the rolls button up in the upper right corner. If you hit that, it will let you scroll.
Ah, thank you. I have 4 6. No, that's Alina.
That's Alina.
Did it not catch my roll? Huh. All right, I'll click again.
Whoa. Also 4 6s. Just for people watching the video, the dice wagered were Alina rolled 4 light and 10 dark, and Case rolled 4 light and how many dark?
18.
18 dark.
It's my estate, damn it.
I won't be meat, but I might be.
You both got 4 6s, so let's count 5s. So Alina has 2 5s and
4.
Case has 1 2 3
I have 5 5s.
4. So you have
6
6
5s.
5s. But then let's count 1s on 6s. And
1 on dark. I have 1 ruin going in.
yeah,
And
and
I'm taking 2.
2. Yeah, exactly. Well,
So
Alina,
I'm
you're the meat.
Right.
Case, please describe how Alina becomes the meat.
Oh.
Hang on, I'm stuck in the rolls for a second because I failed. I am the meat, but he will also score enough ruin after that.
Yeah, I'm ruined out of the game.
'Cause his
Oh.
strength,
Yeah, so
right?
I mean,
Like,
yeah, the stakes are still the stakes. Alina's still the meat, but then
Right.
Case is lost. So yeah,
What is
Pyrrhic victory, we call that.
Alina would come out at ruin 5? Yeah. I think might be a fun way to play this out. Give me 1 second to double check your character's drive. All right. I feel like I'm running up the stairs trying to go back and grab my uncle to make him the meat, since he's the real contender for the estate. Once the will lays out, people are not going to see that he might actually have a legal claim. But then this answer grabs at my ankle, and I was running up the stairs on all 4s once again, kind of transformed or partially transformed, and it's a heavy donkey kick from me that might shatter one of your dancing legs, thereby ruining your career or whatever you have going for you. And that the sow queen, the sow queen sort of recognizes that level of muscular prowess that we try to strive for in the plantation, that we pride ourselves on a certain quality of meat, and that the sow queen sort of inverts at last moment and is like, that's the tasty morsel, and drops me into the pit of the iron kettle of boiling goo.
Oh, so you get put in the goo.
I think it makes more sense to reverse it in a way. Like, yeah, I won the dice roll, but I'm totally destroyed. I feel like better to leave Alina lame in the basement. Does that work or no?
That's fine by me. I mean, it's not what we rolled dice for, but we can certainly do that if Alina's okay with it.
No?
it's just the opposite of what the dice bear out. So I'm the meat.
I guess I don't know what "you're the meat" means. Like, You die,
Alina's
and
going
I
to be
don't, but
carved
my
up and
ruin
put into the
such
pot.
that I'm dead.
That's what it means.
I go in the pot and then somebody gets gold, but it's not you.
Right, yeah.
Is kind of how the dice it's a little unsatisfactory, but it's what
Being
the dice
ruined
did.
doesn't mean you're dead. Maybe Case totally lives and just becomes like a
Exactly.
mad donkey creature at the.
Oh,
like,
okay.
yeah. Like,
Got it. Okay,
you're just
let's-
lost to the place.
Sorry, back it up. I was trying to figure out how I got destroyed in this somehow.
No, the ruin. You might be perfectly fine, but you're just not leaving this place. So yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's just go with the simpler donkey kick then. The donkey kick you straight towards the Sow Queen.
Alina, I'll let you describe your death. Especially given your butcher marks on your body.
That's exactly what I'm leaning into for this, and I don't know if it's God. So Alina gets essentially horse kicked in the chest, like right between the square and the tits, and goes backwards. And as she's falling, and then obviously in front of, essentially at the feet of the Sow Queen, in defiance, I think, begins to cut along the lines of blue, carving the delicious off her face and which parts are for soup, and in reverent prayer for the Sister Vita that she has turned her life to, she now gives her life completely to her saint by slowly removing the meat from her own self for the Sow Queen.
And Case will be showered with gold, probably an epilogue. Orlin, you come crashing into the scene sometime after all of that. The boar creature that caused you to crash down here is currently pinned under a timber. You can see it as the dust settles. But the boar creature is looking over, not at you, but at a figure in the darkness, a little ways away. And he has a look of plaintive longing on its face, as much as such a creature can have such a look on their face. And he's just sort of like got his little hoof out, and he's almost like begging, like, what do you do as you're picking yourself up?
Is it fair enough in this moment? I know this is kind of against the dark rules, but for me to just put that thing out of its misery.
Yeah, you absolutely can, because it's not a combat, right?
Yeah. So just to kind of come over, and maybe I still have that like steak knife or whatever, and just almost like the cattle thing, like just like drive it into his forehead and maybe start to go for some cheek.
You see now what he was trying to get the attention of. There is a woman, her back is turned to you. She's wearing the white, simple white gown of like a maiden or a servant. And you can tell that much from the light coming from the hearth fire that is lit down here. You see a couple of donkeys down here as well, weirdly. And you see the remains of Alina. Blood pooling all over. And then the figure turns. You can't see their face because of the darkness and the shadows. But they hold forth a hoof hand but one of the fingers hasn't fused with the others. The ring finger is there, twitching. How do you know this is your betrothed?
I think it's like a little like, again, like a peculiarity of her, like the shape of the finger and maybe like a little like flit of the wrist, like the way that the figure sort of like spins their hand is something that again is like would have been like habitual for her, but like would be like very strange for anyone else. It's entirely possible that this is just coincidence, but it would be a very weird coincidence, obviously.
You can see the band of untanned flesh where the ring used to be. She's holding her hoof out.
Hmm.
What do you do?
I think I just sort of like mutter out loud, like, you seem to be you, but we left you so far away. What happened?
And she
Tell me
says
what happened.
she says in a voice that is high and clear, almost joyful. I am here because I had a revelation upon the road. My burial was not the end, but merely the first act of a rebirth, a new living saint in the world. And here you will notice for the first time her pig face,
Hmm.
glistening in pink. The skin is raw, like it's freshly formed, like a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Make a ruin roll.
Mm-hmm.
A 2.
Mm-hmm.
Ruin does not go up. You can act in a way that is probably maybe even deeply rational in this moment, but what do you do?
I think like the thing that's like coming to form in my head is that this is maybe something that was destined far before, right? So we had been essentially trafficking these people to this place for, I mean, just for monetary reasons, it seemed at the time. Um, and then we decided to cut off that endeavor and go on this journey, to go, I don't know, find treasure or whatever. And I tagged along. Um, but throughout, like, she has seemed like motivated towards this. So I think I would actually express this and just say, like, how much of this have you known all along since that day we met?
And her snout-like mouth twists up in something like a smile. And she just puts her hoof around you in the back of your neck and pulls you into a gentle embrace. And a little bit of her drool dribbles down onto your own cheek. But it is sweet. And that smell from the cauldron, the smell of the fulfillment of all your desires. We shall see what that looks like in epilogue. We shall epilogue for every character, one of them ruined, one of them in the embrace of the Sow Queen, one of them cut up into pieces, but perhaps something of a living saint themselves in the name of Saint Vita, or a living icon. Take a 2-minute break. We'll come back, do our epilogues. Epilogues. Who wants to go first?
I think I've got an idea that sets up the rest potentially. So kind of the epilogue like opens, it's a sunny day. We see the sort of like the state basically where we sort of started our journey. And we see some treasure hunters like approaching the grounds, and Orlin has become kind of the game warden for the estate. He's riding a mule and rides up to the treasure hunters and says, hello there. I maintain these grounds, but they are the grounds of the new and reborn Saint Vita. You may approach her, but you will need to participate in a little feast first. And if presumably for the sake of this moment, they agree after being sort of explained like all of the riches and wealths that lie within, and takes them to that table where the stag was. And Orlin ties them into their chairs and goes around and serves them wine, gets them drunk, and then slices off a little bit of cheek from each of them, and says to them, "This is for me. The rest will be for her." And then hops onto his mule and rides away.
Thank you.
That was really good. I feel like we need to invert the order so that we close on that, because that was really amazing.
Speaking of order, do you mind if I go last?
Sure. Or I don't mind, whatever the phrasing is for that. I kind of reverse narrated myself there. So I donkey kicked Alina into being a chunk of meat, and I got the gold, but we didn't define what that was, right?
You get to right now.
Just wanted to kind of confirm where we're at with the getting the gold. I think the Sow Queen's offer of "you shall receive the gold" was one of those sort of like fey riddles where word for word you got what you asked for, but it's a golden nose ring, like. And the Sow Queen knew that my transformation into a beast of burden was soon to be complete, and that I am just another donkey on the estate pulling carts of carry in one direction and, you know, awful another, whatever, with this beautiful, absolutely amazing gold nose ring.
I love a monkey's paw ending.
As Alina was in the process of butchering herself, each cut, that white hot flash of pain, she started to see her saint's face, wet with blood, looking right back into her own eyes. And in the moment that she meets her saint for the first time in the spiritual world, she realizes that she must now embody this place and turn the suffering and the needless pain and cuts of 1,000 different types of this pain into an homage to Vita. So now, as the treasure hunters wander the grounds, every time they get snagged by a branch or cut on a rusty nail, I am feeding that back to my saint in tribute.
Fabulous. That's the Plantation. Let's do stars and wishes. I'll start today. This is for both sessions too, not just today. I really enjoyed this story a lot, and I think that there were a few moments that I really loved that paid off from the beginning. So when I realized that like part of what Alina's deal was like self-harm, that's when I gave you the condition with the butcher marks, right? I was like, I want you to cut yourself, like carve it. Yeah. And I was like, so I'm glad you did this. So star for like picking up that and going with that at the end, especially. That was really great. Yeah, so that was really, really good. I love the sort of like, even though Elphys sort of was like lost early, I like how Brian brought the character back, and it has this almost like thematic, like kind of this almost like this like strange like kind of theme sort of made real, this idea of like these people who are like actually like they want the land, they want this place, but really they are just like they are just bound to it in a way that they can't escape, and having that sort of like being bound in this like really literal way as a beast of burden, I think was really interesting. It also plays with the themes of the incursion in a really interesting way as well. And so I just quite liked all that. I thought the stuff with the betrothed was super interesting, because I think it was one of those, Trophy Dark is most fun to me when we have only like a vague sense of like what something means, and then we let the dice lead us to a conclusion that is also kind of like ambiguous, but nevertheless like feels right. It is the A24 horror movie ending, right? And that's kind of what we got with the whole betrothed situation, and I really love that. Like there was a temptation when you asked the question, how much did you know? I was tempted to like come up with an answer, but like it felt better to just say, no, I'm not going to answer, I'm going to just like embrace you, and then we can fill in the details in our own imaginations, so I really like that, and I thought the whole storyline was great. In terms of like individual moments, I really love the scene with the uncle. Uncle Cassian was an interesting character to play, because I was just trying to basically give space for the two of you to kind of like to show yourselves, and it was kind of fun to have this like kind of there's something fun about playing a character who feels like they've finally won, like, and they don't care that it's all this, they don't care that it's like there's fucking dead bodies everywhere and everything is burning, and like, as long as they get to be king of the ashes, they just want to be the king, and so I love characters like that, and it was really fun to kind of play around with that. And I also like the kind of I thought it was interesting that Alina stayed separate from the group for so long. And there was a part of me that wanted you all to be together, but I was also really happy that we kind of got this like almost like a little mini horror movie kind of thing with Alina, which was kind of fun. But yeah, this was a gruesome, fun session. Very Grand Guignol in its sensibilities, and very Grindhouse in its sensibilities. And I dug it. It was fun.
I want to see the live play action of this story. That'd be pretty amazing as a stage.
I mean, yeah, I mean, like you'd
There's
have to
not enough red ribbon in the world.
yeah, I don't see lots of red cloth here.
I can chime in, Mike. I know you sort of embrace Midwestern tourism flyers as a thing, but the idea of arriving to a plantation and finding some kind of discarded flyer of "you've been selected for the grand journey," it's just so disgusting. It was amazing. And that you turned essentially your character, who I think was a lured innocent, into a human trafficker. Oh my goodness. And then yeah, Orland's epilogue was just perfect for sort of resetting everything back to where we started. Like we were back to square one, next generation, and it gets worse from there. Sarah carving along the Blue Butcher lines. And you used the phrase, "This place is hollow except for the rot." That was amazing. Jason playing the uncle. I was trying to plan the like worst Thanksgiving ever, and somehow still keep politics out of it. And when you came up with "trot over here," I was like, yeah, that's the demeaning uncle I needed for this moment. So it was all great. Thanks very much.
I don't mind. I'll go next. Like, there were a lot of moments in this where there wasn't a lot of bleed for me, and that really isn't meant to be a triple pun with my character. There wasn't a lot of emotional bleed from this. But between rings 3 and 4, Brian came in and like kissed me on the cheek, and I was like, nope, that's not, nope. So Trophy Dark is working when it catches you on your back foot like that. God, the cheek meat was just that running through line the whole way, just really satisfying.
An incredible amount of mileage out of that condition. Like even
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like it's not the most like symbolically interesting necessarily, but like we just got a lot of mileage out of it. Yeah, it was fun. It's fun visual. Yeah.
Other star from Mike, like hot off the beginning of the episode, you're like, yeah, something's ripe on that tree. And it was just like, okay, here's the pace. We're going to be sassy. So the like counterpoint of our characters not really getting so ruined at all in the 3rd and 4th rings really gave us space to have a terrible Thanksgiving. Oh, and star for Brian, that petty "I ate your dog" move was just like so spot on. Terrible family. You guys are fighting about it over the body of your sister. Like all of it was both metaphysically horrifying, but also having had quite a few stressful family Thanksgivings, it was terrifying in a different way as well. It was the perfect pitch for the two of you in that scene. What else? Oh, star for Jason. When you make the pig noises, you lower your head closer to the microphone, and it just produces a more clean view of the blade that looks like it's going to slice through your neck. Positioning that was really fun. And then I guess my only wish is I wonder how many times the 5th ring has gone down where somebody dies like Viserys Targaryen and somebody just pours molten gold over their head. Like alternate reality. That was playing in the background in my head for sure. But yeah, fun, gruesome. I got to play a dark character for the first time in a while, and I liked it, and I might be back on a different train.
Welcome to the dark side. I thought that this playthrough was like just a really good example of like the conversation element of Trophy Dark, in that and this is kind of echoing things that everyone has said, and especially Jason, of like and I often open up Trophy Dark and just read incursion descriptions as we go along. It helps me kind of visualize it better and like stay focused. And so just kind of seeing, Jason, like how you're modifying things, how we're dropping these little hints, how you're taking them, how we're taking them. And it's this conversation between the incursion author, the game runner, and the players. And I think that
And the
this was like a
dice.
really, yeah, and that's true too, and the dice. And I think that this was like a really good example of all of those things kind of like interplaying and staying interwoven as they go, despite like big swings in the dice as well. So a lot of like really cool moments that come out of that. For behind the scenes or behind my eyes insight, my experience with cheek meat is actually at Milwaukee German Fest and heads of pigs on a grill. And so that's, and like having conversation of like, oh, what do you eat on the head of a pig? Why would you buy? It's like $15. You can get the head of a little pig and eat it, which is kind of gruesome in itself. So I was just imagining that the whole time, and the conversation was, oh, well, the cheek meat is really, really tasty on that. And so it's like, I didn't know that this like circles around to pigs specifically, but that was like what was constantly on my mind, was like slicing off, yeah, the cheek of a pig head that's on a grill. So when that came around, that was wild. And then yeah, just so many little seeds. I think like I loved how all the characters were kind of like open. We were kind of like trying to figure them out. There wasn't that concrete idea of what they were. Even like once Brian became Case, especially, like just like we got a general idea, we don't know the details, but and that really made it so that all of the little like hints that we were giving and little like sort of prompts that we were sort of providing each other like developed the story and allowed those things to intermingle. So I thought it was just like really cool from that perspective, and just a really nice example of all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was great fun. It was a good diversion. We shall be back to Trophy Gold next week with the Saturday group. Is there anything else before we go? Okay, I'm going to wave goodbye.
Thank you.